Queen Elizabeth I, from the House of Tudor, reigned over England from 1558 to 1603. The Tudor family had been in charge since Henry VIII took the throne in 1485. Talk about a family reunion. It's like the royal version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, just with more ruffs and fewer selfies. Elizabeth, the last Tudor monarch, had quite the lineage, which included marriages and alliances that would make even a soap opera plot twist look like child's play. During her reign, Elizabeth relied heavily on her Privy Council and Parliament to govern the country effectively. She didn't just sit on her throne sipping tea. She made sure to have trusted advisors around her, like a good Netflix show needs a strong supporting cast. The Queen had to manage the local government while keeping the nobility in check, which sounds like trying to organise a family dinner with everyone's dietary restrictions. And a few historical grudges. Taxes were a hot topic, as always, and Elizabeth knew that everyone likes a good tax story, especially when it's not about their own. She enforced laws through local justices and sheriffs, ensuring that the common folk obeyed the rules. It's like when you tell your friends to keep it down at a party, but they just keep cranking the music, thinking they're at a rock concert. Elizabeth was the ultimate party planner, making sure everyone was following the rules of the royal bash. However, Elizabeth faced challenges, especially from the nobility, who sometimes disagreed with her decisions. It was a classic case of you can't please everyone. When she summoned Parliament, it was like calling for a family meeting, where everyone had an opinion and nobody wanted to agree on the pizza toppings. Still, she managed to maintain order and peace, much like a parent juggling kids at a birthday party while trying to keep the cake intact. In the end, Elizabeth ruled for 44 years, all while distributing patronage to keep her supporters close. It's like giving out party favors, but with titles and land instead of keychains. She was a savvy queen who knew how to keep her nobles happy while ensuring her reign was stable. And let's be honest, ruling a kingdom is a lot like managing a social media account. You need the right followers, a good strategy, and the occasional meme to keep everyone entertained. The governance of Elizabethan England was a complex interplay between the monarchy and Parliament, with Queen Elizabeth I relying heavily on her Privy Council. This council, composed of trusted advisors, played a pivotal role in ensuring that laws were enforced at the local level. The Queen's authority was such that she expected Parliament to obey her orders, especially when it came to managing taxes and local governance. This relationship between the Crown and Parliament was crucial in maintaining stability during her reign. While the Queen held significant power, she also recognised the importance of the nobility and gentry in enforcing her laws. The justices of the peace, who were often drawn from the gentry, were responsible for maintaining order in the counties. They acted as intermediaries between the Crown and the local populace, ensuring that Elizabeth's wishes were carried out, even if it meant navigating the often tricky waters of local politics. After all, they were the ones who had to deal with the real people, not just the ones in fancy hats and wigs. However, Elizabeth's reliance on the gentry also had its drawbacks. Many of these local leaders had their own interests and agendas, which sometimes conflicted with the Queen's. The nobility, while expected to be loyal, occasionally disagreed with her policies, leading to tensions within the realm. It was a delicate balance, akin to walking a tightrope while juggling flaming torches. One wrong move, and it could all come crashing down. Despite the challenges, Elizabeth managed to maintain a semblance of order and governance throughout her 44-year reign. The Queen's ability to distribute patronage helped her secure support from both the nobility and the gentry, ensuring that her policies were upheld. It was a bit like being a popular teacher who always had a few extra cookies to hand out to the students willing to help clean the chalkboard. In conclusion, Elizabeth's reign was characterized by her shrewd political maneuvering and the intricate relationship between herself, Parliament, and the local gentry. The enforcement of laws and taxes required cooperation and loyalty, but also brought forth conflicts and challenges. Ultimately, it was a balancing act that she managed to pull off with a mix of charm, wit, and a few well-timed favours. Because who said politics couldn't be a little sweet? Queen Elizabeth, I really knew how to keep her friends close and her privy council closer. It was like a royal game of who wants to be a councillor, where only the most trusted advisors got the golden ticket to influence the Queen's decisions. While everyone was busy obeying the law, it seemed the only thing more enforced than the law was the Queen's desire for everyone to nod approvingly at her orders. After all, no one wanted to end up on her bad side. Rumour has it that her glare could curdle milk. In the Elizabethan era, the gentry were like the VIPs of society. They owned land and lived off the income, but they also had to play nice with the nobility. It was like being part of an exclusive club where the dress code was noble attire, and the secret handshake involved a lot of bowing. The justices of the peace had to enforce the laws, but let's be honest, they often felt like they were just there to keep the peace at a really awkward family gathering. Yes, Auntie Elizabeth, we will obey the law, right after this scone. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the growing divide between the rich and the poor. England's population was rising faster than the price of a loaf of bread, and while towns and cities were expanding, the gentry were shaking their heads like, who invited all these people to our rural party? The aristocracy was living the high life, while the poor were just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Hint, the answer was usually not very well. Agriculture was the bread and butter of the Elizabethan economy, but farming practices were changing faster than a chameleon on a rainbow. The export of woolen cloth was all the rage, and merchants were suddenly like, hey, why not trade with the Americas and Asia too? It was like opening a new restaurant in town. Everyone wanted to get a taste. Meanwhile, the gentry were trying to keep their heads above water, but they often found themselves waist deep in responsibilities. Farming wasn't just a job, it was an extreme sport. As Elizabethan society evolved, it became clear that inequality was the new trend. Unfortunately, it was a trend that no one wanted to wear. The rise of wealthy lawyers and merchants was like adding a new flavour to an already complicated menu. But the divide between the rich and poor was becoming as wide as a Thames River flood. Poverty was the unexpected guest at the Elizabethan dinner party, and no one seemed to know how to send it packing. So, while the gentry were busy counting their sheep, the rest were wondering where their next meal would come from. Talk about a royal headache, and there you have it, a glimpse into the Elizabethan era with a bit of wit to lighten the historical load.